Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for The Mandalorian Season 3, Episodes 1 and 2. Did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian? Hello, I'm J-Law, but you can call me Justin, and if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things Geekcentric. Joining me for today's spoiler-free review, we got a few of them. They're my fellow Mandalorians. Nate, Darcy, Megan, how we doing? How we doing?
Oh, stoked to be back with this show, dude. It's honestly, it's been way too long. Obviously you're listening to this, so you can't see, but I've got my son with me. My little Grogu is here, back again, and he's just as cute as ever. Oh my gosh, he's
let's
so
be real
cute
here. He looks after you more so than you look after him. So
that's true. That's true. Yes, very much like in these two episodes. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's absolutely. We will get into that. But before we do, I would love to let our lovely listeners know that at this very moment, out now, we have our interviews with Bo-Katan herself, Katie Sackhoff, and director Rick Famuyiwa, available both on podcast feeds or on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric, so you can see our beautiful faces and the faces of our beautiful interviewees. You can see the faces of everyone all at once because you know what? This is the way. But today we are here to talk about our first impressions of episode 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian Season 3. Let's get you up to speed with a synopsis. The journey of the Mandalorian through the Star Wars galaxy continues. Once a lone bounty hunter, Din Djarin has reunited with Grogu. Meanwhile, the New Republic struggles to lead the galaxy away from its dark history. The Mandalorian will cross paths with old allies and make new enemies as he and Grogu continue their journey together. This stars Pedro Pascal, Katie Sackhoff, Carl Weathers, Amy Sedaris, Emily Swallow, and Giancarlo Esposito, featuring directors like Rick Famuyiwa, Rachel Morrison, Lee Isaac Chung, Carl Weathers, Peter Ramsey, and Bryce Dallas Howard. Jon Favreau is showrunner and head writer of this series, as well as executive producer, along with David Filoni, Rick Famuyiwa, Kathleen Kennedy, and Colin Wilson.
I like how you said David Filoni. That's nice.
David. That's
and
very formal,
Jon
isn't it?
Favreau.
Very formal.
Jean Favreau.
Jean Favreau.
And David Filoni. This is the way, guys. We are going to talk about this.
Sorry, just one more
episodes.
thing. I'm going to stop interrupting you because you're hosting this. But we should tell everyone that this is also a drinking game. So whenever you hear us say this is the way, take a shot, okay? Take
Sure.
a shot.
There you go. New rules. They're always changing. So let's kick off our discussion here. We were fortunate enough to get the first 2 episodes. First episode is available now for you to watch on Disney Plus, so you can enjoy that. But we were lucky enough to get episode 2, which comes out next week. Huge thanks to our friends at Disney Studios Canada and Lucasfilm for giving us early access to these episodes so we can bring you our thoughts nice and early. But we will have a spoiler-filled discussion because, yes, we're starting another watch club for The Mandalorian Season 3. First episode drops Friday, where we will get into all the details, spoiler-filled for episode 1. But for today, we are keeping it spoiler-free, talking about what worked, what didn't work for these first 2 episodes. I don't know about you guys. A lot worked for me. That's because I'm, a Star Wars shill who just loves anything and everything. I'm going to kick things off, though, with this conversation, just mentioning how these first 2 episodes, what really worked for me is just how quickly things get moving. We don't spend very much time with the sentiments of reuniting and so on. We're back. We are back in the Mandalorian galaxy at this part of the Star Wars story. And yeah, these first 2 episodes do not waste any time getting us introduced to the adventure, to the action, to the things we loved about the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think they're very different in terms of how they're narratively structured. And again, it's tough to talk about without going into spoilers, but I think the first episode very much gives you sort of obviously you have to have watched season 1 and 2 and the Book of Boba Fett to be able to fully enjoy this season. But I think the first episode very much gives you like if you for some reason were just tuning into The Mandalorian season 3 episode 1, you would get a really good sense of what the show has sort of become by this point, because I think it sort of touches and hits upon all the different notes that we've gotten. And there's some great moments for all types of fans. Again, without spoiling anything, I think no matter where you're sort of coming from as a Star Wars fan, and especially if you are a Filoni fan, there are some really, really fantastic moments that I can't wait to break down and talk about. So narratively, I think the first episode is sort of jumps around a bit, and then I think the second episode is going to be a little bit more of that linear sort of straight line that you would kind of come to expect from these sort of adventure episode. But Justin, overall, I think to your point, they're not wasting their time.
No,
with
two episodes
this season. It's fantastic.
Yeah, these 2 episodes really do a great job at setting everything up and getting the ball rolling pretty quickly.
It's funny, Nate, that you say the first episode is a little bit like jumpy and the second one is straight, because I felt quite the opposite. Oh. I feel like the second episode does a little bit of back and forth jumping around that, for me, I feel like there were bits and pieces of that episode that didn't need to be there, or some other pieces that could have been fleshed out a little longer rather than making it feel so jumpy. Not to say that I didn't like it. It was an incredible episode. There are bits and pieces of this second episode that were a little bit expositional, where the first episode introduces us quickly, like you said, to the characters we need to be aware of. In a really cool way, they introduce the Mandalorian again, not Mando, but the general Mandalorian, which was so epic. And yeah, it gets us into that like lighthearted starting the adventure, and it was a successful first 2 episodes, that's for sure. Also, both having very different tones, not only storyline, plotline stuff, but the tone of each was totally different.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the one thing that stood out from these first 2 episodes, as much as I love the narrative and the story and how it's really kicking things off, like we said, it was more the set design and the practical effects of these locations that we're visiting in these first 2 episodes felt so much more fleshed out and rich. And with all these, again, I know Kevin has mentioned how he wasn't the biggest fan of Andor's lack of aliens. Well, in these first 2 episodes, they are filling that void for aliens, in my opinion, because you see species you never even heard of before, and I loved every second of it. So again, they're really doing a good job of fleshing out these worlds even more than we already know.
And I think that it's interesting with this season. I think it's a stellar improvement, a marked improvement over the previous 2 seasons. And I think that's because to me, it sort of felt like in certain sequences, there was a little bit less reliance on the volume. And again, the volume is an incredible, awesome thing that was a huge push for the industry and for shooting filming in that way. But it was a little overused, I think, in the previous 2 seasons, where they were kind of like, they're stoked about this thing, so that they're using it a lot. Whereas here, I felt like there were some really, really great moments that, yes, did absolutely use the volume. But I just felt like for those moments that did, the visuals were knocked up to 11. There is a monster in the first episode that just looks absolutely incredible, but then there's also a lot of scenes where they're scaled back. You can tell they're filmed on set, and you're getting puppets like Grogu, or you're getting pirates. You're getting these characters that are like these people wearing these actual masks. I will say, even though it is a bit cheesy that their mouths, even on the more human-like characters, the pirates, sort of moved like puppets, where they sort of open and close when they're talking, I didn't mind it because it felt like classic Star Wars to me. Like that was the sort of stuff where I'm just like, okay, I know that if I was standing in front of this character right now, I would feel like I'm at Galaxy's Edge. But I didn't care because it sort of fits within the visual language that is classic Star Wars.
Well, and that's one of the things I love about the way they've gone back to prosthetics and not utilizing CG as much as obviously millions of other action, fantasy, what have you, genres. Star Wars is known for its practical effects. So to continue to use them and just make them better is an immense goal, and they succeed every time. I also think the costume design in this show, after only seeing 2 episodes, is fantastic. And like you said, those pirates, probably some of my favorite costumes I've seen in a Star Wars show. So look out for people's costumes. But yeah, the mouth thing didn't bother me at all because I feel like we're all used to Star Wars using practical effects.
Yeah, I think what you guys are saying about the visual effects overall is entirely true. The first 2 episodes show that there is an elevation to it. Like, yeah, we're still getting the volume; it's still being used, but I think there is a lot more of an attention to detail in telling this story, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that this story needs to be a lot bigger. We're 3 seasons in, and this needs to be a larger scale story that I think is going to feel a little more appropriate to the rest of Star Wars. Especially after something like Andor that feels more intimate and personal, they have to scale up this season of The Mandalorian so that it really does sit in that echelon of high Star Wars, if you will, right? Like that's sort of what we know of Star Wars, the visual effects heavy, the prosthetics, the puppetry, all of that stuff needs to be top tier at its best. And it almost always is, but to the point of what you guys were saying, the first 2 seasons might have been a little softer with that. They might have been a little bit more leaning on that volume and set design with the volume to help kind of give more life and finding and striking that balance. But here we are 3 seasons deep. They're comfortable with that. Now they can go a little bit deeper, and maybe their pockets have got a little deeper. Maybe they have a lot more money now that they can actually spend in terms of actually bringing these episodes to life.
Well, there were certain moments in these episodes where I was sitting there, and the thought just kept hitting my brain of just like, this is a movie. Like this is. I know it's a series, but it's a movie. Like the quality. There's no difference anymore, and I love that. And I do think, from a standpoint of them making this story bigger, like you said, Justin, I think that shift for Din happened the moment that we moved from the Razor Crest to the N1 Starfighter, in the sense that there's nowhere to put a bounty in your N1 Starfighter, at least not comfortably. So in that case, I think he's no longer a bounty hunter. He's on a mission, and I think these episodes both really do a phenomenal job of setting up that mission, while at the same time also catching some people up. Again, I mentioned that you absolutely should watch the Book of Boba Fett. At least if you don't really want to watch the Book of Boba Fett, watch certain episodes of the Book of Boba Fett.
Watch the last 3 episodes, or the last 4 episodes.
The last 3 episodes, all you need.
Because you'll basically get The Mandalorian 2.5. So definitely check those out. But I think even if you didn't, they do a decent job of sort of catching you up with what happens in these episodes. I will say, if we're going to maybe talk a little bit about what didn't work, I did think that there were some moments that did feel a little awkward, but only for the people that have already experienced those moments through the Book of Boba Fett.
You're talking about the repetition, right? Because I think that it's interesting that in the previously on for episode 1, they catch you up to speed, but then the whole first part of episode 1 is reiterating a lot of
catching
those
you up
points
to speed, right?
Again, and from the same characters, So I think that there is that, but the one takeaway from having to do it again is that there's a little bit more detail as to what needs to be done and the sort of agreeance of what his mission is. I think in the Book of Boba Fett, it was very much left. It
was a little more vague.
Yeah, this is what you have to do. Here he's saying, this is what I'm going to do. And so, I think that there's a validation that happens at the beginning of this that, Mando or Din understands this is what he needs to do. This is the way. Take a shot.
There we go.
And you know what I mean? So I agree with you. I think that from a pacing standpoint, I think that both could be said, because I agree with Meg. I think the way episode 2 kind of like back and forth, there's a little back and forth weaving that happens. It makes it a little, it's just an odd way of pacing it within the episode. But that said, again, it's really hard to talk about this without spoilers. But
let's just say there is a sequence that I do think personally, for me, and we've seen this in Loki, where specifically the middle of Loki, where we sort of have two characters walking and talking for what feels like a really long time. And this is where you, Megan, you brought up the expository thing. Yeah. And listen, I'm not a writer. I don't know exactly how I would have had them do it differently. All I know as somebody who's watching this stuff and taking in this content is that's not for me, at least. I can definitely say that. So I think from a pacing standpoint for that second episode, there is a little bit of sort of a lull and a little sort of bit of retreading something that we've already they sort of go over that stuff again and again in the episode.
Well,
and again, it's well, I know we can't talk about it.
Let's be fair. Let's be fair here. Retreading, as you pointed out, is part of the reason why is because what was treaded before was in a show about another bounty character. Do you know what I mean? That someone
which they don't even use in the catch-up. Like that was one thing I found interesting.
They do.
Like, there's so much stuff in the catch-up you don't really. And I'm talking about episode 1 though. Like when you're first coming back, if you haven't watched Book of Boba Fett and you don't know how they get back together, they never reference it at all. It's like a one throwaway line and then they move on. Like the fans who are they like Mandalorian and don't really care about anything else outside that bubble, and they didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, there would be so much head scratching going on about why not more on that. Like I'm just very confused why they didn't dwell on that a bit more for, again, those people who don't watch everything that Star Wars releases.
Right. Well, and I'll even say, Nate, with you saying there were a few expositional moments that were reiterated again just because it felt like, okay, they did the opening sequence of saying previously on, but then they continued to reiterate a little bit more. For someone who hasn't watched the show in quite some time, because it's been a while since season 2 came out, and it's been a while since the Book of Boba Fett came out, I actually kind of needed that because it was like, oh yeah, I forgot that all these things happened.
Yeah, it's welcomed for sure, and it's definitely appreciated in terms of getting us up to speed. But I think we are all seasoned Star Wars fans to a certain degree here, and as you pointed out, it was something that you appreciated. I think for us, for myself, I could say that watching it, having remembered where we were watching the previously on, and then getting it again in the opening parts, it just, to Nate's point, felt kind of like, okay, we're just doing this all over again. So.
Well, I mean, Justin, this is the way. I will say though, one thing that I needed to be hit with that I haven't been hit with in way too long was this incredible score from both Ludwig Göransson with the theme and also Joseph Shirley with the composition and the way that just sort of takes the theme and melds it. Like you would expect by this point in season 3 that I'd be over the Mandalorian theme. Dude, it hits every single time. And in this first episode, the moment that they play it for the first time, I was like,
it's so
I
good,
was screaming. I was chills. I'm still getting chills thinking about it because it absolutely, it hits right on target. And honestly, it is such a phenomenal moment. And I think the music in this series is it's just excellent. And I love also that we have themes now, right? Like we have a Grogu theme that every time you hear like the little ding, ding, like little noise, like little bells, going off, you're just like, oh, that's a Grogu situation right now. So really, really digging it. And yeah, dude, this is going to be another soundtrack that I'm going to have to get as soon as they pop it out.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to talk to you guys, though, about the characters that we get introduced to. Again, being reintroduced to so many of them. We got Din. He seems a little more motivated, or that he has more direction. He's not necessarily as floundering. I think that the first 2 episodes show that he knows what he has to do, and it very much sets up a different Din Djarin. Am I the only one that kind of got that vibe, or how did you?
Absolutely not. I completely agree with you.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I think that it's that in itself makes me very interested in how the rest of this season is going to unfold. But we also these episodes did give us another reintroduction to Katie Sackhoff's Bo-Katan, which I honestly, like, I know part of it is because I had the chance to talk with her, but at the other side of it, it's just the longevity of this character, how much she has come from the animated now into live action. It is just, it's perfect. She's great right off the bat. And, you know, she really does show a sense of desperation that I think is very much going to be explored. And it definitely sets up, you know, again, these characters, when we see them, it's setting up a lot for like the motivations for the rest of the season. And I appreciate that. If anything, from these first 2 episodes, that's what we get a lot of. We get a lot of intent and understanding where these characters are at this specific point.
Well, and she even said it herself, like in the interview that he did with her, like we're coming to a very different Bo-Katan than where we left her. She was so egotistical when we left her. She is the ruler of Mandalore in that moment, and here we see her. She's kind of been hit in the face with a rude awakening, and she has to kind of deal with that. And the way that they sort of show her and they kind of navigate that reluctance in her to kind of help.
She's kind of mourning, right?
Yeah, in a way, she's almost mourning not only her, you know, I think she's mourning the life that she thought she was going towards.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's really where we catch her. And she's pretty bummed out.
Yeah.
And this is where I gotta boost Katie Sackhoff's ego, because she is not only an incredible voice actor, she does such a good job as Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars and Rebels series, but I find it really interesting to see the opposite happen, where a screen actor, and she's done other things than just Star Wars, obviously, but to see a screen actor take over a voice acting role is an adjustment. And obviously you have to be more theatrical and enunciate more. And there's a lot, you know, you can't just show your emotion on your face. You have to just focus it in your voice. And I feel like to do the opposite is also a difficult task when you're someone who's just focused on their voice, and then you have to be a visual screen actor. She is like a quintuple threat. She can do everything. It's unbelievable. The performance she pulls in just episode 2 is like heart-wrenching. It's beautiful.
Yes.
It's wow. Amazing.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I think just to the point that you're talking about, you know, the fact that she can cross over from animated into live action and still do everything that her character is asking of her in live action, that is a huge testament. And the reason why Katie Sackhoff will forever be Bo-Katan. Nate, how about you? You have something to say? This is the way?
Well, I just wanted to bring up my man, Carl Weathers. Is so much fun in this first episode. I think it's really great to see. He's incredibly regal. High magistrate, get that right. He's awesome, and I really, really enjoy what they've done with this character and sort of where he's come. But speaking of sort of character growth, I mean, not physically, but in a lot of ways, Grogu is a very different Grogu than where we left off, and you can see the training has paid off. You can see he's not only more capable, but at the same time, they also find a lot of ways in these first 2 episodes to show just how much of a little kid he actually is, and I love it. I love those little moments, and I love that they're able to sort of show that progression from when we initially got Grogu. He was kind of just like a little bean sitting in a little chair, and much like a real child, I guess, he's growing up. He's becoming more capable.
We've got toddler Grogu now, or toddler Yoda.
I love it.
Baby Yoda. It's toddler
Yoda. There we go.
It's great. I mean, this is actually one issue that I did have until Jon Favreau released a statement clarifying the timeline.
Yes,
because Grogu has made such leaps and bounds in his training. It's just, without seeing that it has been 2 years, he spent 2 years with Luke and they were apart for that long, it really then sinks in that, he did get a lot out of those 2 years. Like, he spent that time training as a Jedi. So it's very odd that they don't mention that at all. Like, the show is very good at avoiding saying timelines.
Which is
so
smart.
Like, it's smart. Again, the comic universe is probably like rolling over so happy for this, because there's so many plot holes, like little holes in this timeline that they can fill in now with like as many stories or books that they want to do, but it's weird that they don't reference that to kind of clarify, because as far as we know, it could have been a month with Luke. We don't know how long that really was. So.
It also,
it's the same
could
thing
have been a long weekend.
In every Marvel movie or show, they do the same thing, right? If you look at anyone's phone, like in She-Hulk, like of course we get to see America's ass, but we also on her phone we don't see a date, we just see the time. And so I think that is all purposeful. That's all part of that marketing. That's all part of that.
They could still imply that time has passed, and they really didn't do that very well, in my opinion.
When we're talking about Star Wars, it does matter. It does matter where these stories fall in place in the timeline. Now, we know where this story fits after the events of Return of the Jedi, but before the sequel trilogy of 7, 8, and 9. But I think it kind of aligns with the breaks that we've had between seasons, right? So we had Mandalorian season 1, and I think they said there's about a year that passes, right? I think we got about a year of time between season 1 and season 2. And then it is true, it's been over 2 years since we've had season 2, and here we are with season 3. And in that time, he was with Luke and stuff like that. So they might have expanded it a little bit more outside of that. But I do think that it's kind of important to the Star Wars story to understand where these things fit, because as Nate pointed out, when it comes to the MCU and the Marvel, and it's supposed to be very much it can happen anytime. It's not necessarily specific unless it's a period piece like Captain America, the First Avenger. It can be ambiguous with its date and more about a time thing. So I think it's good that Favreau at least came out with some sort of statement to at least let us know that there has been some time that's passed. It wasn't a long weekend with Luke, that, like a training bender, if you will, that he went on. So I appreciate that. But, to the sentiments of what you were saying, Nate, like, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about Din Djarin. Din Djarin looks confident. So does Grogu. Grogu and Din Djarin together seems stronger than ever. It was like, even though that time for us felt like nothing, obviously the 2 years for them allowed them to grow and reconnect and kind of, do and take on this new adventure more confidently and unified. So I think it's clear in these 2 episodes we're dealing with grown-up versions of Din Djarin and Grogu.
Well, this is the way, Justin.
This is the way. Speaking of this is the way, was there anything, I know we've been kind of like sprinkling it throughout our conversation here about things that didn't specifically work. Was there anything that, like, outright you guys didn't mention yet that didn't work for you in regards to these first 2 episodes?
I think just small things. And again, the biggest thing was the fact that they don't reference time or how long has passed. But again, that was easy to get over once you read Jon Favreau's clarification. So it's very small on my side, at least. I think
it's just some of the ideas of again, are we catering to an audience that didn't watch Book of Boba Fett? Or are we not catering to an audience that didn't watch Book of Boba Fett? Those were kind of the only spots. And then I think just a little bit of pacing. I think the first episode, it does jump, not necessarily back and forth, but all over the place. And for some people that'll feel a little disjointed. But as I mentioned, the reason I kind of dug it was because it is kind of like a poo-poo platter, if you will, of the Mandalorian, where you're getting the best of all the different sort of things. You're getting a visit with a character from before. You're getting a fun alien
to
species.
New characters.
You're getting a Wild West shootout, like you're getting all these little moments in one episode. And so as disjointed as that can feel, I enjoyed it, but I do think there is a bit of that, a bit of a pacing problem in that second episode, where again they did sort of pull the cardinal sin of the walking and talking for minutes at a time that just didn't feel as exciting as it could have been. But what the results of both the sort of the beginning and end of that second episode, oh boy, like
definitely
let's go.
Worth it.
Definitely worth it. It's worth it to get to definitely get to that point. So absolutely. I don't think I can, without spoiling anything, I don't think I can go any further with any more details.
Yeah, and I would say the pacing again in episode 2 is my only riff, but it's obviously worth it. It's just the back and forth and then back again and forth again and back and then forth is like,
Yeah, I think it's
maybe one of those didn't need to be in there. That's
for sure.
correct.
But I think it's the age-old problem with TV series, with how we move through different points of the story, and how quickly we spend in one spot. I do agree. I think the first episode is very much like a reminder of all the things that make up the Mandalorian that make it really special, and you get to experience that as a poo-poo platter, as Nate said.
Why can't we use like charcuterie board or something?
No, poo-poo platter, dude.
Poo-poo platter. But yes, I'm with all of you. I think pacing for these first two episodes, it's not something that I was expecting would be resolved. You know what I mean? I think that as we even get through more of these episodes, because there's 6 more to come, we will see this ongoing pacing issue. We've had it with animated, we've had it with with live action. So I don't think it's going away. It's just a matter of refining the stories.
Honestly, I had no issues with the pacing in the second episode. That one felt like a return to form for just a Mandalorian story of the week type thing. And it was very, like Nate was saying earlier, very linear in its structure. And I enjoyed that. And this lull you're talking about, I can't for the life of me think of what you're talking about. So that's just...
We'll talk about it in the watch
from
club.
my end.
We'll talk about it offline. We'll talk about it in the watch club.
I enjoyed this. The second episode to me was much better in terms pacing wise, and it has me excited, especially where
the
it leaves
payoff.
off.
The payoff, yeah.
Where this season will go, I cannot wait to see.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, guys, I think we've said our piece. I think it's time to wrap this thing up with our final thoughts and our score, which will be on a rating out of 1 to 5 Kowakian monkey lizards. Nate, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Yeah, okay. So, as I mentioned, I think the opener is a bit clunky. It's a bit awkward at times, but it does act like just all the best parts of The Mandalorian. And I think that not just like where the show sort of started, but where it's what it's become essentially, and whether that be for the good or the bad, I think the episode sort of highlights all those moments, some of the things that maybe as fans we sort of had to sort of get used to over the course of the last 2 seasons, but have sort of come to love, and that's part of the charm of the show. We get some really great moments for animated fans, Filoni fans, as well as some really fantastic action moments and great subtle teases for what's to come. And then that second episode, again, as I mentioned, a little bit more of a straightforward narrative, a little bit of a slower pace. There is a little bit of sort of retreading or back and forth that does happen. But overall, the story, as we mentioned, is flying by, and I think the pace for the show is really, really great. I think episode 2, it's gonna have there's a cliffhanger that's gonna have your jaw through the ground, deep into the earth, if you will. That just I had to pick mine back up. But for every other moment that I was watching this show, my jaw was sitting comfortably on my face, and I had a beautiful little smile there, because you cannot help but smile at so many of the moments in these first 2 episodes. So I'm going to give these first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian Season 3 a solid 4 out of 5 Kowakian monkey lizard. Free range Kowakian monkey lizards. You notice that now? They're free range. They're off living in a tree. It's beautiful.
Awesome. Meg.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic way to start season 3. Lots of action right off the bat. A great way to get us going and into the beginning of a huge adventure that I'm sure Mando and Grogu are going on this season, not only in these first 2 episodes, but the next 6 after. I love Grogu with all my heart, and I'm happy to see him by himself sometimes, maybe, but also, his connection that he's made with Mando and vice versa. I love to see the growth through all the characters we know and love, and also see some new faces. Great start. I'm stoked to see what we have in store. Same as Nate, I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 Kowakian monkey lizards. I had to read that off a piece of paper because I can't say it.
Awesome. Darcy.
Again, I really enjoyed these episodes. I do agree that the first it didn't fit the vibe of Mando that we know and love, but all those moments that they were revisiting and kind of referencing did have me really excited. And there was a moment in that first episode that probably had me more excited for another show that is on the horizon potentially, and that was just completely unexpected. So there were moments in that episode, and then the second episode as a whole I loved because it felt like we were returning to that this grand scale of mystery almost that we're trying to unfold through the eyes of the Mando and Grogu, trying to figure out what's next in their path and how do they get there type thing. I loved it. So yeah, I'll be giving the first 2 episodes 4.5 out of 5 Kowakian monkey lizards because I can honestly say I am super excited to see where their story goes next.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to echo everyone's sentiments and say, yeah, this was an absolute blast. These first 2 episodes did exactly what they needed to do. They reintroduced us to a new and invigorated Din Djarin and Grogu, while also reintroducing us to the world of the Mandalorian. I know that's odd to say because we're part of the same galaxy, but coming off the heels of something like Andor, which was refreshingly different for Star Wars, this was return to norm and the conventions of what we love about Star Wars: the action, the adventure, the history, the lore, the surprises. There's so many great surprises just in these first two episodes that I think, as you described it, Nate, just had me smiling as a Star Wars fan. I was thrilled and excited. And yeah, they definitely get me excited for what's to come. I'm excited to see, what new allies or old allies that we run into. I'm sure we're going to see Boba Fett show up in this. I'm wondering if we're going to see any crossover to something like Skeleton Crew, with that show on the horizon, or if we see Ahsoka again. Like, there's just so many opportunities now that The Mandalorian is back up with season 3, and it being very much a gateway to a specific time period within the Star Wars galaxy. What else are we going to see? So I think that even just in these first 2 episodes, there's some surprises. There's some things that are going to have you in awe, especially based on if you're a huge Star Wars fan. So yeah, I'm going to be giving this as well a 4 out of 5 Kowakian monkey lizards. There you go.
Well done. This is the way.
This is the way. Darcy, say it. Say this is the way.
No, I was trying to avoid it the entire time. I'm doing it on purpose now.
Don't worry. We'll have another chance to say it at the end. So, well, that is it for this spoiler-free review for The Mandalorian Season 3, Episodes 1 and 2. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to write into the show and let us know your thoughts on the first episode, because that's out right now on Disney Plus for you to stream, well, you can do so by reaching out to us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at WeAreGeekcentric. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other great content available on our podcast feed for you to enjoy. As I mentioned at the top here, we're not done talking about The Mandalorian Season 3. We are kicking off another watch club that starts this Friday or tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this episode, where we will get into a deep dive discussion about all the spoilers from episode 1, and we will be continuing to do that week to week, dropping episodes every Friday. But if you're a fan of our watch clubs and you're a fan of all things Star Wars and you want to hear more of these 4 lovely voices, well, you can join us for Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2. We are deep in that watch club. We just posted episode 11 earlier this week, and that will be wrapping towards the end of March. And if that's not enough watch clubs for you, well, we have another one for the HBO original series, The Last of Us. Nate and I have been going episode to episode, talking about it, and posting those every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Literally the hour after the show drops on HBO, we drop our podcast episode so you can join us, a bit of an after show, and take it in. And hey, this week is the penultimate episode. Next week is the finale. So that is on its way to being done. And we got a ton of other stuff coming this month. So be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. That's it for us. Nate, Megan, Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this spoiler-free discussion for The Mandalorian Season 3. I look forward to doing more of it. But until then, as we say,
this is the way.